Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is simple. We give you the expert shortcut to being well-informed.
And today, we are taking a really deep dive into how financial professionals actually calculate life insurance needs.
Right. It's a process that goes so far beyond just asking, how much coverage should I get?
Oh, completely. The real question, the one we're focused on, is how much cash does my family need to keep their financial world from just collapsing when I'm gone?
Most people just shop for the lowest monthly premium.
They do. But what our sources show is that a professional starts with the shock the estate is going to face. You have to identify every single hidden demand, every tax trap, every debt that suddenly comes due.
Okay, so let's unpack that. We've got some detailed professional guidelines here and a great case study about a guy named Derek and his wife, Becky.
And the first question they ask is so important. Are the insurance proceeds meant to be a general inheritance for the estate?
Or are they for a specific immediate need for a beneficiary?
Exactly. And that distinction, it changes everything. The whole size and structure of the policy.
How so?
Well, if the money goes to the estate, it's, for covering taxes, final expenses. But if it goes directly to Becky, who currently has no income,
Then that money has a job to do.
a very specific job. Paying off the mortgage, maybe replacing his income for a few years, funding the kid's education. We're not just calculating a lump sum, we are calculating structural preservation.
And for Derek, that structural preservation is really tied to one powerful sentimental asset, a family cottage.
Right, he inherited it, and he desperately wants to pass it down to his kids, Jordan, Anya, and Robbie.
And that one go keeping that cottage is going to be our thread today. It shows why his whole financial picture needs this level of scrutiny.
It forces us to look at his entire life through the lens of sudden death and the immediate demand for cash that follows.
So step one in this analysis is taking inventory. A financial pro has to sort all assets into three buckets. We've got liquid, fixed, and investment. Why break it down like that? Why not just use a total number?
Because the total isn't the problem. The liquidity is. We have to flag any property that could trigger a liability, like a huge tax bill, from something called deemed disposition.
Ah, okay.
Which is why we have to track both the adjusted cost base, the ACB, that's basically what he paid for it, and the fair market value, the FMV, what it's worth now. That gap, that's the potential tax bump.
Okay, let's start with liquid assets. These are the first line of defense, right? The estate's emergency fund.
Exactly. Cash, or things you can turn into cash really fast without losing value. Checking accounts, TFSAs, that sort of thing.
And their importance is what?
You can't overstate it. If the executor doesn't have immediate cash, they might be forced to sell other things. Stocks, property, at just the worst time, a fire sale, basically.
Just to cover funeral costs or immediate taxes.
Yeah.
So for Derek and Becky, their liquid picture seems okay, but maybe a little tight for a big tax event. They've got $25,000 each in their TFSAs and another $20,000 in a joint checking account.
So $70,000 total in immediate cash. Now, let's move to fixed assets. This is where the planning gets emotional, sometimes brutal.
We are the tangible things: real estate, cars, jewelry.
Right. And the professional has to ask the client, if you were gone, what are your survivors willing to sell and what must be kept?
That's a heavy conversation.
It is. In their case, they jointly own their house, which is worth $550,000, but the sentimental piece, that's the cottage.
The one he inherited. It's valued at $600,000, and he wants his kids to get it directly.
And that one decision, passing it to the kids instead of rolling it over to his wife, Becky, that's the main driver of their potential tax nightmare.
And don't forget the vintage cars.
Right, another fixed asset valued at $72,000. Derek suspects Becky would sell them for cash. So they're a potential source of liquidity, but, an unreliable one.
Okay, then we get to the investment assets, the future wealth. Stocks, bonds, registered plans. This is where that ACB versus FMV tracking really kicks in.
Absolutely. Look at Derek's non-registered portfolio. The market value is $280,000, but the cost base, the ACB, is only $162,000.
So there's a $118,000 capital gain just sitting there.
Exactly. A taxable gain. If it can't be rolled over to Becky, the government is coming for a piece of that right away.
And then there's this whole web of retirement accounts. Derek has an RRSP worth $89,000, Becky has one with $24,000, and there's a spousal RRSP too.
But the biggest one is Derek's pension plan, his DCPP. It's worth $180,000.
And this part is actually a good example of successful planning.
It really is. Because Becky is the named beneficiary. That $180,000 rolls over to her tax-free, into a locked-in retirement account.
What would happen if he hadn't named her?
Oh, disaster. The full $180,000 would be counted as income on his final tax return. That one signature, naming her as beneficiary, probably saves the estate tens of thousands in immediate tax.
Wow. Okay, so we've got assets of around $1.3 million, but with huge potential tax exposure on the cottage and his investments. Now let's flip it. Let's look at the liabilities.
The debts. The things that are going to demand cash right away and threaten to force a sale.
So what are we looking for here?
We're looking for what absolutely must be paid off so
Mhm.
Becky can breathe financially. And the biggest one, of course, is the mortgage.
A joint mortgage of $318,120.
Now, the lender might extend the loan to Becky on her own, but they might not. And Derek's specific wish is for the insurance to just pay it off.
Which makes sense. That's an immediate need.
A huge one,
Yeah.
especially with Becky not earning an income right now. Wiping out that $1,800 monthly payment gives her massive, immediate relief.
Okay, what about other debts?
Well, consumer loans, thankfully, they pay off their credit cards every month, so no issue there.
That's a big plus.
It is. But Derek has a separate car loan. It's got $41,000 left on it, a $620 monthly payment, and he wants that cleared too.
So just to pay off the mortgage and the car loan, we're already looking at, what, about $359,000?
Roughly, yes. $359,000 in insurance proceeds that are just for debt, just to make sure Becky can stay in the house and keep the car without those payments hanging over her.
That's a big number. But it's nothing compared to the single biggest shock that most people just completely overlook.
The hidden tax liability. This is really the aha moment in the whole assessment.
The deemed disposition.
Yes. The tax system basically pretends that on the moment of your death, you sold every single capital asset you own. Stocks, investment properties, and crucially, that cottage.
And because the cottage is going straight to the kids, there's no spousal rollover to defer the tax.
No deferral. The capital gain is triggered instantly. The cottage is worth $600,000, but the cost base, the ACB, is only $250,000.
Which leaves a capital gain of $350,000.
An unrealized gain that just became very, very real for the taxman.
So what does that actually cost the estate in cold, hard cash?
Well, using the derived tax rates in the source material, the estimated bill is a staggering $191,700.
Wow.
The exact math gets, a bit complicated with marginal rates, but the result is what matters. Nearly $200,000 due in cash to the government. Immediately.
So if Derek didn't plan for this, the executor would have to find almost $200,000 just to keep the cottage.
Or, more likely, they'd be forced to sell the cottage to pay the tax bill on the cottage.
Which is the exact opposite of what he wanted. This is the perfect example of why insurance isn't just about replacing a paycheck.
It's a tax shield.
Yeah.
It's a tool to prevent the forced sale of a cherished sentimental asset.
The emotional value of that cottage can now be quantified. It's about $200,000.
That's right. He needs that much cash from somewhere just to make his wish come true. If the insurance doesn't cover it, his dream of passing it to his kids will almost certainly be stopped by the tax collector.
Okay, so we've now quantified these huge one-time needs, over $500,000 for debts and taxes. But what about just living, the ongoing need for income?
The cash flow reality.
Right. We have to see if the survivor, Becky, has enough income to maintain her standard of living. And, just as important, can Derek even afford the new insurance premiums today?
And his monthly budget is pretty complex because of his past. The total monthly expenses come in at $8,560. Yeah, and a couple of things really stand out.
Mandatory support payments. He's paying $500 a month in spousal support to his ex-wife, Susan, and another $1,000 for his son, Jordan.
And the analysis has to figure out if those payments stop when he dies, or if the estate has to pay out a lump sum. For now, they're a huge drain on the monthly cash flow.
And then there's the cost of the cottage itself. It's not free.
Not at all. It costs $770 a month just for property tax and maintenance. That cherished asset has carrying costs.
So let's do the math. His take-home pay is $8,400 a month. His expenses are $8,560.
They're already running a monthly shortfall. A small one, $160, but it's a deficit. And that's before buying any new insurance.
So how are they managing?
This is a huge structural vulnerability. He's covering that deficit plus the new insurance premiums by taking $600 a month out of his non-registered investments after tax.
So he's literally selling off future wealth to cover current expenses and to buy the insurance that's meant to protect his other assets. That sounds like a tightrope walk.
It's a very high-risk strategy. But they have a long-term plan. He's expecting a raise in a couple of years. And more importantly, Becky plans to go back to work in about 6 years.
Once their youngest is in school.
Right, and this whole analysis just confirms how critical the timing is. They need maximum coverage now. While cash flow is so tight and Becky isn't earning, that need might actually go down in 6 years.
Okay, let's pull it all together. We have connected every piece of this puzzle. The $70,000 in liquid savings to stop a fire sale.
The $359,000 needed to clear the debts.
The massive $191,700 death tax on the cottage.
All of it resting on a cash flow that's already strained and basically counting on Becky's future income to save the day.
The synthesis is pretty clear.
It is. In this professional view, life insurance is the single tool that makes all of Derek's sentimental wishes possible. It keeps the house, it keeps the cottage, it pays the tax man, and it gives Becky breathing room.
It moves insurance from being just a monthly cost to being the structural guarantee of a desired outcome.
Yeah.
And that leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, today. We focused a lot on the fact that Derek wants to keep his $600,000 cottage in the family, even with that massive $191,700 tax liability. So given how severe that is, what financial moves beyond the insurance we talked about could Derek and Becky potentially make today while he is still alive to minimize that future capital gains tax? Think about the specific tax rules around capital gains and how they relate to a principal residence.